selective at times like this, and should offensive messages be criminalized? That's going to be a big talking point on the news today. Also, the presidential polls have been announced for 2022. Kaun banega Rashtrapati? We'll have more on that on the news today.
So sorry.
Presented by Aditya Birla Group, Big in Your Life. Co-presented by Star Health Insurance, the health insurance specialist. Co-presented by JK Tyre Ranger Series, Stay Wild at Heart. Powered by NECC, Sunday ho ya Monday, Roz Khao Ande.
Good evening, hello and welcome. You're with the news today, your primetime destination news, newsmakers, talking points. The big talking point tonight, arrested for criticizing netas. Are our politicians intolerant of criticism? We're going to try and distinguish free speech, hate speech, and the politics behind it. That debate is coming up tonight. Also, Kaun banega Rashtrapati? We'll find out what's happening, the inside track on that too. But first, as always, it's time for the 9 headlines at 9. An FIR is filed against AIMIM chief Asauddin Owaisi for an alleged hate speech a day after the Delhi police books BJP neta Nupur Sharma. Owaisi accuses the police of an unfair balancing act. No relief for Delhi Minister Satyendra Jain in a money laundering case. The Enforcement Directorate gets custody till Monday. Jain denies all charges, says no link to cash and gold seizure. Kerala gold scam spotlight now on Chief Minister Vijayan. Congress workers hit the streets. Police fire water cannons to disperse the protesters. The accused Swapna Suresh booked on conspiracy charges. Karnataka textbook war just got bigger. Congress stages protests outside assembly. DK Shivkumar says Bomai government must roll back saffronized textbooks. Protests won't stop. The Election Commission announces the schedule for the next president's election, voting on 18 July, counting on the 21st. Next president of India to be sworn in by 25th July. Polls to 57 seats across 15 states tomorrow in the Rajya Sabha. Prestige battle for BJP and Congress. Maharashtra, Karnataka, Haryana and Rajasthan. Key contest to watch out for. Politics peaks over Kashmiri Pandit. Shiv Sena steps up and attack on the BJP. Uddhav Thackeray dares the Saffron Party to recite Chalisa in Kashmir. Its MP Priyanka Chaturvedi meets a family of the victim Rahul Bhatt. Brazen VVIP high arrogance caught on camera in Bengaluru. Daughter of a BJP MLA who was stopped for jumping a signal abuses the police. Video goes viral on social media. And Mumbai break the 92-year-old record for the highest margin of victory. Enter the Ranji Trophy semis after beating Uttarakhand by 725 runs. But first, our top story tonight. Days after a BJP spokesperson now suspended, Nupur Sharma's comments on the Prophet sparked anger in the Islamic world. The Delhi police have cracked down on hate speech. The police have booked the suspended BJP leader Nupur Sharma, Naveen Jindal, who has been sacked by the BJP, but also gone ahead and booked the AIMIM MP and chief Asaduddin Owaisi, accusing him too of allegedly promoting enmity between religious groups. Yati Narsinganand's name is also mentioned in the FIR. Owaisi has hit back, saying the BJP is trying to draw false equivalence. It's our top story.
Zero tolerance for the hate mongers. Delhi police has cracked the whip on people allegedly spreading disharmony in the country. 2 FIRs have been registered. The first FIR names suspended BJP spokesperson Nupur Sharma over her derogatory remarks on Prophet Muhammad. The second FIR names AIMIM chief Asaduddin Owaisi, the sacked BJP leader Naveen Kumar Jindal and also Swami Narsinganand among others. Owaisi has hit out at the police, asking what is he being booked for. Meanwhile, Asaduddin Owaisi's supporters staged protests outside Rashtrapati Bhavan demanding stern action against Nupur Sharma.
यहाँ से अगर पुलिस जो है वो डिटेन करके ले जाती है सिर्फ इसलिए कि उनको जो है यहाँ पर धरना करने आए थे, तो ये मैं मानता हूँ कि बेइंतहा गैर जिम्मेदाराना हरकत है ये दिल्ली पुलिस की, और हम अब आगे जो है कार्रवाई करेंगे लीगल.
Politics has erupted over the police crackdown. Opposition parties are claiming that the fresh FIR is to divert the country's attention from the fallout of Nupur Sharma's remarks on the Prophet. While BJP leader Uma Bharti came out in support of the suspended BJP leader.
जो उसने भूल की नूपुर ने कि पार्टी लाइन और नीति जो होती है उससे बाहर प्रवक्ता नहीं जा सकता, तो हमारी पार्टी किसी के लिए नफरत भरी भाषा बोलने के लिए कभी भी कोई स्वतंत्रता नहीं देती. अब जो आगे चिंता का विषय आ गया है कि उसके सिर पे 1 करोड़ का इनाम, तो मैं देख रही थी जूतों से जैसे उसका फोटो रौंदा जा रहा है और जिस तरह से उसको धमकियां मिल रही हैं, इस पे तो हिंदू और मुस्लिम दोनों समुदाय के मुख्य लोगों को इस पूरे कृत्य की निंदा करनी चाहिए.
जो वर्ल्ड वाइड इंडिया का इमेज खराब हुआ है बिकॉज ऑफ नुपुर एंड दैट मिस्टर जिंदल, उसको डाइल्यूट करने का प्रयत्न कर रही है, क्योंकि वर्ल्ड वाइड इंडिया का छवि खराब हुआ.
इस देश में जो टेररिज्म बढ़ने जा रहा है या धमकियां मिल रही है, उसके लिए भारतीय जनता पार्टी जिम्मेदार है. बीजेपी की जो प्रवक्ता है भारतीय जनता पार्टी है, तो देश का माहौल बिगाड़ना चाहती है, 2 धर्मों में झगड़े लगाना चाहती है, लेकिन इस हद तक गया कि प्रॉफिट मोहम्मद पैगंबर के ऊपर भी इस प्रकार की टिप्पणी की गई, तो पूरा विश्व में जो इस्लामिक कंट्रीज है, जो उनको मानने वाले लोग हैं, वो आहत में आ गए हैं.
Competitive politics over the last few years seems to be leading to hate between communities. But can a police investigation effectively prevent hate speech? That remains to be seen.
The Delhi police is now the next in a series of FIRs filed across the country by state police officials against persons found spewing hate speech on social media and on various media platforms. In New Delhi with cameraman Ankit Singh, this is Anisha Mathur for India Today.
Now, the FIR against Asaduddin Owaisi and the others comes even as the line between hate speech and offensive speech is getting blurred in this country, particularly where politicians and police are concerned. On your screen now are visuals of 4 people who were booked and arrested in recent times for their social media posts. Marathi actress Ketki Chitle was arrested by the Maharashtra police over 3 weeks ago for a Facebook post that alleged that NCP chief Sharad Pawar is anti-Brahmin. The post did not name Pawar but gave enough hints on who she was referring to, and she had only shared it. It was not even her post. She's been in jail for a post she shared for a month. This Tuesday, that's day before yesterday, Kolkata police team flew to Goa to arrest a vlogger, a YouTuber, for his abusive remarks of West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee. The YouTuber Rodhu Roy, in a Facebook Live, used many expletives, blaming the TMC government for mismanagement that led, he claimed, to the death of singer KK. The Aam Aadmi Party government in Punjab had a few weeks ago sent a police team to arrest the BJP's Tajinder Banka over his statements that they said were derogatory of the Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal. It led to an interstate fight with the Delhi police taking him back from Haryana. And then independent MLA supported by the Congress, Jignesh Mevani, was picked up late at night by the Assam police over a tweet on Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So you can see TMC, Aam Aadmi Party, the Congress NCP government, Shiv Sena government, as well as the TMC, all are under the scanner, as indeed is the BJP, in the context of what's happening now with the Delhi police. So the question I want to ask, offensive speech, is it equal to hate speech? Should offensive speech lead to arrest and criminalization? Are netas intolerant of criticism? And are politicians and the public in general selective when it comes to free speech? Joining me now, Rajat Sethi, political analyst who's been close to the BJP. Shantanu Sen is Trinamool Congress MP. Supriya Srinath is Congress's spokesperson. Siddharth Sharma is AAP spokesperson. And Mahesh Tapse is NCP spokesperson. So all bases covered. I'm going to ask each of you very specific questions. You, Rajat Sethi, first, because the Delhi police comes under the Union Home Ministry. And the fact is that what does the Home Ministry or the Delhi police go and do? You file FIRs against Nupur Sharma for hate speech allegedly involving the Prophet, and then also bring in Asaduddin Owaisi and others trying to create false equivalence. It seems almost like a balancing act done to placate BJP supporters who are angry that an FIR is being filed against their leader. The BJP has not even come on this show. Your response?
Well, Rajdeep ji, if you cherry pick one case over the other and carry on this debate, you can never reach to good, conclusive answers. The topic that you raised, the difference between free speech, offensive speech, and to what extent an absolute free speech would look like, you need to take a more nuanced, a more intellectual perspective. Right from the Constituent Assembly, when free speech was being debated, it was the Constituent Assembly which actually went in with an absolute level of free speech, which at least for 2-3 years was supported by the courts of this country. It was the first Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, who brought in the amendment and put in restrictions, which started with reasonable restrictions and went on to muzzling free press.
I'll come to the larger picture, but before that, you have to
make sense, Rajdeep.
But
honestly,
you
will say it's a monkey balancing of Delhi police. Yes. I will say every single person who was, putting in, there were just so many anchors on television channels. Hate speech should be booked against each one of them, and including Owaisi. Why not? Where is the monkey balancing? Did he not utter those words? Did he not allow his supporters to give clarion calls to behead Nupur Sharma?
He denies. He says that nobody. He says he has never used.
He has never. To do a tutu meme debate.
I'm not. I don't want to do a tutu meme. I don't want to do a tutu meme.
It is the TV shows which instill hatred at an industrial scale in this country, and you are a stakeholder of this. Please understand that you willfully or unwillingly.
I'm not.
This is the matter of fact. TV news channels do not start off every debate with a cockfight.
I have not encouraged hate speech.
TV debate has become a cockfight. Till you do not stop that, till you don't go in for more nuanced responses from your panelists, this debate will result into hate speeches, and this is how it all goes out of control. Can't we all have a basic agreement to have some decent discussions?
Okay.
You will see, how this debate descends into absolute maddening thing because you have 4 people from 4 different parties.
Trust me, it will not. Trust me, it will not. Test me if you want. And if you can prove in any debate I have encouraged hate speech, I am willing to step down from this chair. If I have ever actively encouraged hate speech, it has been my considered opinion that yes, television has a role to play also in ensuring that we do not give platform to hate speech of the kind that is being found. But I'll come back to you, Rajat, in a moment, because you are saying let's have a nuanced debate. So let's try it. But first, I want to get the political parties to end their hypocrisy, because each of them in some way or the other, in all the cases I've listed, don't seem to make the distinction between hate speech, offensive speech. Supriya Srinath, why don't you take it up? Because there is a Congress NCP government in Maharashtra with the Shiv Sena. A Marathi actress has spent the last month in jail because she shared a Facebook post that was seen to be offensive to Sharad Pawar, or spoke about Sharad Pawar. And I'll bring Mr. Tapse in a moment also. But why don't you respond? Because you all are allies there. And in Chhattisgarh too, your government has filed FIRs against people for Facebook posts where there's a Congress government. How do you respond?
So there are two things that I would want to say, and I'm not going to call, the TV debates responsible for this. Yes, the TV debates have played a role in vitiating the narrative, in poisoning minds, in actually bringing hatred all to our living rooms. But I think we're all responsible for it in our own ways. And I will tell you why. There is a distinction between hate speech and offensive speech. Hate speech is one that creates animosity, that actively promotes, violence, that actively vitiates the environment, calls for, arms, is hate speech. But there is also offensive speech. And I will say, in public life, you need to have a slightly thick skin, because you will be criticized, you will be questioned, you will be held responsible for things that you're actually not responsible for. But of late, offensive speech now borders on completely fake news and lies. And I think it's very derogatory. I mean, we're talking about Mr. Pawar. I think a lot of the opposition leaders, including my own leader, Mr. Gandhi, has faced a lot of objectionable, absolute lies in the name of, free speech. And like they say, your freedom ends where my nose begins. And I'm all for free speech. I come from media. I think free speech is very valuable. We've had it in the country. But everybody has trampled it. And I think one of the reasons why people are emboldened to do it, because there is political patronage to absolutely hatred, absolute lies, absolute derogatory, absolutely reputation assassinating things. And who's responsible for that? Yes, that's not hate speech. That is objectionable speech. But you cannot assassinate somebody's reputation in the name of free speech. In the name of
character assassination.
Yes, assassination as well.
No, you can file an FIR for criminal defamation, but when you then go ahead and arrest someone for 1 month for sharing a Facebook post, questions will be raised. And I want to put that to Mahesh Tapse, because he is from the NCP and the Home Minister of Maharashtra is NCP. This actor has spent almost the last month in jail, Mahesh Tapse, for sharing a piece which your party saw as offensive of Sharad Pawar. You have every right to file criminal defamation, but what do you go ahead? You ask the police to immediately arrest her, and arrest her under provisions which are much more difficult to get bail. How do you respond?
Good evening, Rajdeep and all panelists. Let me tell you that the post Ketki Chitare had shared, it was extremely objectionable. Members of our party were agitated and they filed a normal police complaint with the local police. One was filed in Pune, one was filed in Kalwa police station. And hence the police has taken a swift action in booking her under various sections. I think 153, 298 and some other sections are there. After that, the first class judicial magistrate has given the judicial custody. What I read latest now that she has applied to the Honorable High Court of Mumbai for squashing of the FIRs and also for the damages.
No, but why? No. But my point is, you file FIRs against her across the state. This has a chilling effect. What you are doing is, let us assume that she was wrong. I believe she was wrong. Just a minute, Maheshji. She was wrong in sharing that post. It was derogatory. But is that enough for someone to spend 1 month in jail?
See, this is a judicial process. I mean, if I can say that Anil Deshmukh doesn't deserve to be in jail, that does Nawab Malik deserve to be in jail,
you cannot compare money laundering cases and cases of extortion with this.
It's a legal process, Rajdeep ji. You have to understand it's a legal process. We don't have any say.
Okay.
We don't have any say. We are not influencing any kind of...
Sir, you are using your police power. Come on, you're using the power of police.
Power has no role. Honorable judges of any court, whether it's the judicial magistrate or the Honorable Supreme Court judge, They are giving judgment based on the facts and evidence.
You're putting the ball therefore in the court's domain. Okay. Let me. No. 1 minute.
One thing I want to add.
Yes.
We have a freedom of expression under Article 19(1). We have a reasonable restriction under Article 19 to what Rajiv Shetty just said. We have 153 under CRPC, under Indian Penal Code, which again criminalizes enmity between different groups. So Ketki Chitade, if she has a policy problem with my government, she's free to criticize everybody. Okay. Everybody is free to criticize my on policy issues. We criticize the Modi government and policy, but we don't get personal. We don't body shame any politician.
I'll come to those personal. No. You're saying okay. You're making a distinction between policy statements and personal criticism. Let's come to those. Just a minute, sir. Just a minute now.
Talking about body shaming, Mr. Pawar, talking about his disease, talking about the hell is waiting for you. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. It was not expected from an actress, Ketki Chitade, and it has definitely angered the sentiments of our party workers.
Okay, you used the word sentiment, and I'll come to that in a moment. But Dr. Shantanu Sen, TMC MP, what happened 2 days ago is your West Bengal police goes on transit remand and picks up a YouTuber because he used abusive language against Mamata Banerjee. Now, I've got the language, and he uses words which are definitely derogatory. But none of those words stand to be there abusive of Mamata Banerjee. Terrible words. Language used is terrible. I can't even say it here on television, the language used. But is abusive language enough to actually go and arrest someone, pick him up and take him back to Kolkata from Goa? Is that what the police should be doing? It's offensive. But is it hate speech?
See, Mr. Rajdeep,
yes,
as you know that Article 19 of Indian Constitution speaks about freedom of speech. But let me tell you one thing, I will abide by whatever you are saying. If you say openly that yes, you can play that video if you have gone through really. If you say that you can play the video in front of your family members. This is not for the first time that he has been doing this type of things. He has been ridiculing and he has been mocking with several other items. He was
filthy language. No, Dr. Sen, filthy language is not a crime. 1 minute. Filthy language is not a crime. Let's be very clear. To use abusive language is terrible, but it is not a crime for which you need to send your police all the way from Bengal to Goa and pick the person up overnight. Then you don't have the moral, you don't stand for free speech.
No.
It's offensive, but it's not a crime.
No, that means you mean in a decent country, in a sober country like India, anyone can say anything, anyone can use any unparliamentary, filthy, derogatory, abusive language in social media, in public, against anyone. Especially IPC 354 says outraging the modesty of women. If you really have gone through the video, you must appreciate whatever has been done by Calcutta police or West Bengal police. It has been done rightly, and this is not that it is the first complaint against him. It is me who lodged the complaint on 3rd of June after going to that video. But prior to that, there were many other FIRs against this particular person who is a sort of a madcap. He ridiculed, he distorted Ravindra Sangeets, he distorted national anthem, he spoke foul about the
okay, so you're saying he's a serial offender.
Everything is in record.
Okay, you're saying he's a serial offender. Let me therefore
Can I please comment?
No, just a minute. Let me therefore get the Aam Aadmi Party.
200%.
Yeah, okay.
200%.
Let me bring in Aam Aadmi Party's Mr. Sharma. Mr. Sharma, you tell me now. In your party, you have gone, your police went to pick up Tajinder Singh Bagga, the Punjab police went to pick up Tajinder Singh Bagga because of defamatory comments against Arvind Kejriwal. And wanted to sort of put non-bailable provisions against him. He may have said things which offended your leader. Does it justify criminalizing it?
Well, Rajdeep, we all have to understand that as an individual, the freedom of expression that we have, and once we become a public figure, we are expected to behave in a particular way. Off air, in my family, with my friends, the kind of languages I use, I cannot use the same language when I am on air and hundreds and thousands of people are seeing me. So the difference here is that an individual and an influencer are different. When there is an influencer, he has to abide by certain ethics. You cannot go on, anybody, including me, including you. In the same program, when one of the panelists asked you, you said that you challenged him saying that you have never used offensive language. That means that people who are in public or holding public offices, or in short, people who are influencers. For example, during the time that I am on this program on air, I am an influencer. Millions of people would be watching me. So I have to, it is my bounden duty, it is the ethics that calls for that I'll use language that doesn't instigate people. The moment I start instigating people, it is a call for action.
No, if it is incitement to violence, that's different. If someone incites violence, that is certainly punishable, prosecutable. But if you make statements that are seen as offensive to someone in public life, is that enough? And that's Rajat Sethi, where I want to draw you in again, because social media posts by their very nature, Facebook, Twitter, you have all kinds of offensive remarks being made. Do those remarks, just a minute, do those remarks, Rajat Sethi, constitute, in your view, criminal offense? That's the point that one is trying to make here. It is one thing to say statements against the prophet, but if I make an abusive statement about a politician, there's an equivalence being drawn.
See, the problem that Rajiv, that most of these politicians and their followers have is this holier than the king, more loyal than the king syndrome. Now they all want to make it a point, prove a point before the leader that we are more loyal to you, and then they go all out. And I think here the key operative word is disproportional. Disproportional action by either the state administrations to placate or please their political masters, or even for that matter, even the Assam police. What they did was absolutely meaningless, and it was quashed by the courts. I think somebody, a neutral arbiter, it could be the courts, who need to step in and say that these are the hard lines, hard red lines, where one cannot cross under no circumstance. Or we as a nation decide that France is the model. We go in for an absolute freedom of expression at that level, where, when Charlie Hebdo happened and numerous such related events were happening, it was Macron who came in and projected those cartoons on government buildings. That's the level of absolute free
No,
speech
is that possible? 1 minute. Now, is that possible in a country like India? If I abuse someone's gods, or if I'm seen to denigrate God, what has happened in this case? You've got, in the case which started it off, this debate, Nupur Sharma was seen to have made derogatory remarks about the prophet. Those who have now also had FIRs against them are seen to have made sarcastic comments or ridiculed the shivling. Now, there's a difference between ridicule something and pass derogatory comments. For example, also in the Jignesh Mevani complaint in Assam, he was arrested by a BJP government in Assam. Why? Because he had said on Twitter, Modi worships and considers Nathuram Godse as God. Now, is that enough to send your police to go and arrest him? I'm saying, have we all lost a sense of proportion?
No, this is exactly what I'm saying, Rajdeep. This disproportionate actions which are coming in, more important cases are not getting adequate amount of state machinery's attention. And it is these frivolous things which are taking up the spotlight. The reason is this, that people, these followers, they are all throughout in this process that they want to please their masters. Let me tell you, barring a few such isolated cases where even the chief minister stepped in, the Assam chief minister stepped in and ensured that this gets squashed, because it was a meaningless FIR in the first place, and the Assam police should not have done it. So but to go back to Mamata Banerjee and go back to Mahua Moitra, they are paraded as the beacons of liberalism and the beacons of free speech across all TV channels.
Is this disproportionate time on the show?
Their party is systematically has been abusing freedom of speech. They've been systematically abusing citizens' free right to express. The reason is that there is a coterie which constantly wants to protect a section of politicians and want to go after the other. That kind of a balancing act should stop, and we as a nation, facilitated by neutral arbiters like the court, need to tell exactly where the red lines are, so that there is absolutely no grey area for politicians to play around with.
Supriya Srinath, do you believe that now that you've made the switch from media to politics, do you believe that politicians are capable of making those red lines, or they are intolerant of criticism? Whether it's a Mamata Banerjee in Bengal, whether it is a Sharad Pawar in Maharashtra, whether it is a Narendra Modi or Amit Shah in Delhi, whether it is an Arvind Kejriwal in Delhi, you all are incapable of making drawing these red lines. If the supreme leader is criticized, on social media, you better be ready to go to jail.
No, I think we need to cut some slack to the politicians having made this switch. Though I will first say one thing. Let's see what is happening and let's look for a solution. There are anonymous trolls who actually go ahead and threaten you sexually, especially for women. There's always sexual violence threats. There is character assassination. For men, it's blasphemous as well. So there are anonymous trolls. And then there are, of course, these influencers who are emboldened because they need to prove their loyalty to the king. The reality is that unless there is no political patronage, unless the message from the top is not flowing, and I'll be very honest here, I have seen television debates descend into nothingness over the last 8 years. I mean, they've become personal, they've become vitriolic. What was said by anonymous trolls on social media, by people who are faceless, who had no voice, is being said by party spokespersons today. I am seeing show after show, channel after channel. Today is debating hate speech, free speech, police action. Why is the BJP not participating in these debates? That's the big question. Where did it all start? The personal
because
attacks
the
from the Prime Minister.
BJP feels that they don't want a repeat of the Nupur Sharma episode.
1 second, Rajdeep. Are you telling me the BJP is not capable of a decent debate? This is a decent debate. Is the BJP not capable of a decent debate? When the Prime Minister goes into an election rally and says 50 crore ki girlfriend, hybrid guy, bachada, when the Prime Minister says stuff like that, that is when people are emboldened to carry that message. And where did all the state police running from one state to the other start? In Assam. And I agree with my fellow panelists. It's absolutely wrong. This is absolute abuse of power. I mean, you go and arrest an elected MLA, you bring him, he gets bail, and you frame him in another case. And you say that he was trying to misbehave with a lady constable. Thank God for the courts in Assam that actually put an end to that. But this is what the government is capable of. Are you telling me this happened without the political patronage of the Assam Chief Minister? So I also think, and I will say just one thing while I wrap this up, I think the responsibility is as much on politicians and on their followers. We need to lead by example. Let us control our language. Let us see what we say in public about our fellow politicians. And that's when these trolls get emboldened. They believe it's a good thing to say that. When you promote people for saying Goli Maro Dash Ko, you are telling your followers this is what is going to be your ticket to stardom, ticket to fame. Because you make that man a cabinet minister. And this is case after case. You can go ahead and scan those cases, whether it is Adarsh Chaube or a Chand Qureshi. This has happened in UP because a Facebook post against Mr. Yogi was put. He was in jail for several months. I'm saying we need to be thick-skinned, but this anonymity of trolls comes from the fact that you want to please the supreme leader who's actually speaking the language that you want to emulate.
The BJP will turn around today. They're not here on the show as a direct representative. They'll turn around and say Sonia Gandhi once called Narendra Modi Maut Ka Saudagar. They will then turn around and say there are congressmen who have referred to Mr. Modi in very derogatory terms. You see, the point is, are we all willing to be more balanced? I agree. Television channels also have to be balanced. I completely agree that we cannot allow hate mongering on TV.
I have just one thing to say. If a television news anchor decides that the show is not going to descend into cacophony and personal accusations, it is not going to happen. I've done shows with you.
Should Sonia Gandhi take back the words she used against Modi? Mr. Modi should take back the words when he used words like Jersey cow or 50 crore girlfriend. All of them. All the politicians started. You're now shooting the messenger.
No. There's a difference. There is a difference, Rajdeep. You are blurring the lines there. There's a huge difference. That was said in response to what happened in Godhra. The criticisms that come from the Congress or other political parties are happening in response to policy formulations. What is being said by trolls, the spokespersons and the BJP leaders, including the Prime Minister who's descending the message down to his cadres, is not on policy lines, is personal. I mean, the whole reputation assassination of Rahul Gandhi. You think that wasn't personal? You think that was on policy?
Of course
lines?
it is. I agree.
Attack us on policy.
I agree. And I want to draw a distinction. You're seeing Swami Yati Narasimhanand. Look at the kind of statements
he says about women. Forget about anything else. Forget about religion. The stuff that he says about women, I had hoped that the BJP would have stood up because he said some really derogatory stuff about the women in their own party, about some ministers. I feel sad for them that the party did not stand up and defend them against this man who's vitriolic, who was actually saying I mean, how could he say the things that he said against the BJP leaders?
Okay, the fact is, and I will give a word to Dr. Shantanu Sen of the TMC, because you know in Bengal people have been arrested for Facebook posts against your leader Mamata Banerjee. If you want to take the moral high ground and take on the BJP and say, look at the way the BJP is misusing the police, you've got to get your own house in order. I come back to it. Statements made against Mamata Banerjee by this YouTuber are terrible. He has used abusive language. He should be completely ostracized. But can you in this age of YouTube and Facebook go around arresting people every time they put up a post, Dr. Sen?
First of all, with all humility, Rajdeep ji, I would like to remind you that there is a basic difference between criticism and abusing. In democracy, every political personality or every individual has got the right to criticize in a proper way. If Mamata Banerjee is not having that much threshold of tolerance, then when Prime Minister Narendra Modi used to come to Calcutta during election campaign and used to ridicule CM Madam by calling Didi, oh Didi, she could have taken some step. That is something different. Day in and day out, the BJP leaders, starting from the top class up to the booth level workers, they are criticizing Trinamool Congress leaders openly in social media. That's a different issue. But you just cannot use this type of filthy, abusive, unparliamentary language. Have you seen the video?
I have seen the video, sir. What seems to be happening, sir, I actually believe that you are, sir, today there are all kinds of abusive. Let me tell you one thing, sir. 1 minute, Dr. Sen. Every day on social media, I am ridiculed. People have sarcastic memes of me. I'm not going to the court and saying I'm going to file criminal defamation, or I could easily do it. Lies are spread. The point is, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. The point is, I want to make, just a minute, sir. I want to make this distinction. When you offend someone on religious grounds, you attract section 153. And you should, if you spread hate. If you incite violence, you should certainly face the arm of the law. But if there is criticism, and that's where Mr. Sharma, I will end with you. You tell me, your leader is criticized. Arvind Kejriwal says he represents a new politics. If he represents a new politics, why is he worried about what Tajinder Bagga has to say about him? Ignore him.
Yeah, the answer is very simple. You pick up any of the Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal's tweet and you will find a lot of abusers below that tweet as replies or comments. But that doesn't mean that Arvind Kejriwal goes on harassing or filing defamation cases against anyone. With Mr. Tajinder Bagga, as one of the panelists said, there is a very clear case wherein he is an influencer, and as an influencer, he has the option of using a better language, but very consciously, he uses innuendos. When you use innuendos, you are instigating people. And as an influencer, as a civil society, nobody has any right, including me on this panel, to instigate anyone. I have to use civilized language. The answer to this, the solution to this is that we in India can see how racism, the issue of racism was dealt in the West, or in India also, within the judiciary, we see that within the courts, the lawyers are hammer and tongs against each other. There are heated arguments, but when they address each other as learned counsel.
Sir, but the fact is, in the social media world, there is no respect for each other. The social media world has become partly the problem is a free-for-all.
Rajdeep, last time also I was cut short. So my bottom line here is that if anyone is an influencer, there is an individual and there is an influencer. If a person is an influencer, he has a substantial following, he has a political life, he is a political figure, then he has to curtail his language. He has to use civilized language. The thing with individuals is different. There will be many trolls trolling Mr. Arvind Kejriwal. Every time he tweets, they can come and troll him, and Arvind Kejriwal will take it in very right spirit. But if there is a political person trolling him, body shaming him, calling him names, using offensive language, that means that that person, being an influencer, having an option to use criticize policy, having an option to use civilized language, has very consciously chosen not to do that and consciously chosen to instigate people. So in India, I don't think even the constitution or the law
Rajdeep, 10 seconds, please.
gives anybody that kind of right to instigate anyone.
Okay, you made your point.
10 seconds, please.
Mahesh Tapse, what has surprised me is that Sharad Pawar was one of the most, let me say, a politician who usually had a thick skin. But it appears you NCP workers are more worried than Mr. Pawar. Mr. Pawar has not spoken about Ketki. You all are jumping around. This is the problem. You are more loyal than the king. Whether it is Trinamool, whether it is AAP, whether it is Congress, whether it is BJP. अरे मोदी के बारे में कुछ बोल दिया. अरे अमित शाह के बारे में कुछ बोल दिया. शरद पवार के बारे में बोल दिया. गांधी फैमिली के बारे में कुछ बोल दिया. कुछ करना है. That is the problem, Mahesh Tapse. You are the problem, not your leaders, some of them. I don't think Mamata Banerjee is as worried as you are.
No, let me tell you here. See, any leader any supreme leader of the political party is the source of inspiration for the entire cadre. And any personal attack, see, if it's a policy attack, then it's a different thing. But if it's a personal attack, body shaming, personal derogatory remarks, so the cadre doesn't take it too well. Whether it's the BJP cadre or the Congress cadre or the Trinamool Congress cadre.
Yeah, but your sentiments, sir, you can't run this. This is not a republic of offended sentiments. Everyone's sentiments are offended on different things.
People idealize their leader. You have to understand.
But they are not gods. Sharad Pawar is not a god. Mamata Banerjee is not a goddess. Narendra Modi is not a god. They are individual mortals.
For any cadre, Modi ji is a god for the BJP cadre. So why can't Sharad Pawar be our god?
Okay, let me leave it there. Are our leaders gods? That we are in a republic of offended sentiments? We started off with Nupur Sharma's case and the manner in which the Delhi government now seems to be doing a balancing act. I appreciate my panelists joining us because I want to turn to that. Are our police really even-handed in these issues, or is the law being misused? You saw what has happened, that the Delhi police has now filed FIRs against both Owaisi and against Nupur Sharma. Vivek Sood is senior advocate, MN Singh is former top cop of Mumbai. Appreciate both of you joining us. Let's turn to the policing and legal aspect. You first, Mr. Sood. What is your sense? Do you believe the law is being misused by our politicians to settle scores?
Definitely, Rajdeep. I believe that the law is being misused across the spectrum. But I feel that the problem is larger. It's not only about politicians. It's about the character and nature of the social media. Now, Rajdeep, when you came into journalism, you were trained as to what to say and what not to say, how much to say and how much not to say. Now comes the social media, which is like an unbridled horse. Every citizen on the planet, can exercise his free speech. It's free for all. Now, when you have something like social media, so then, apart from being a very democratic medium of free speech, it has also become a hub of hate speech. So, social media, while hate speech is there, while free speech needs to be protected, hate speech needs to be redefined and penalized. So, definitely it's misuse of the law. And I strongly believe that the legacy of what's happening today is Section 66A of the Information Technology Act that came into the statute book in 2009. It was a draconian piece of legislation, so overbroad, it was grossly abused over so many years. So, the problem is much larger. The problem lies in the nature of the social media itself.
That's very interesting.
I strongly believe that you must redefine social media abuse. You have to redefine it, you have to penalize it. While free speech needs to be protected, it needs to be promoted, hate speech needs to be redefined and penalized.
Okay. Let me also bring in, therefore, MN Singh for your comment. Mr. Singh, is the police not aware of when a particular speech is offensive, when it is hate speech, and is unable to make the distinction, or they simply do what their political masters want? Delhi police has been told, ye Owaisi ko bhi pakdo along with Nupur Sharma, so there is a sense of balance. Or Maharashtra police says, ye actor ko jail mein dal do because she has offended our leader Sharad Pawar.
Rajdeep, who do we blame? I mean, we are all into this. Whether it is politicians or the police or the media, I think everybody has gone mad in this country. And if we're talking about the police, do you think the police are free really to do their job as they are expected to do as per the law? I don't think any police officer in his sense will go on registering cases of sedition. There was one case against you also. This is all, we are becoming, in this, today the atmosphere has become so bad. It is the politicians who are doing all this, and the blame comes on the police.
No, so you're saying the police are simply following the instructions of the politician? Are you saying there's nothing left like an independent policeman who can decide in his or her own judgment? Do they know even the law in some cases? The lower level constabulary, can they make a distinction, a local SHO or the Thanedar between hate speech and offensive speech?
Rajdeep, may I comment on this?
Just a minute, sir.
Let me tell you, Rajdeep, constabulary and the lower level sub-inspectors, inspectors don't decide. These orders come from the boss. This case of, I don't want to take an individual example because I may be blamed that I'm taking sides, but then the case is against a Rana couple. The case of sedition was registered, and now they have dropped the sedition charge and filed a case, a simple case. Now, why on earth did not the police commissioner or the other senior officers know that the sedition charge will just not stand? But then so much of bad publicity was done for the police, and the police was blamed. So I don't think it is the police who are free to do this, to take this action. And if the police have done it on their own, I think they are just not doing their job properly. So I think all these hate speeches, somebody coming on the television channel and using very bad language, attacking the prophet and things like that, I think this country has gone mad. And if you really want...
Sir, country has gone mad, and some would say the television news ecosystem on some channels has gone even madder. But that is a discussion for another day. That we have to look inwards. We have to look into our own conscience. We have to do also some Atma Chintan.
I don't think I should blame the law. The laws are there. The laws are always misused. All kinds of laws will be misused, but we need the laws. Now, how to use the law, it all depends on the person who is given the responsibility of using the law.
Okay, let me leave it there.
Then also there will be a problem. If we have the law, then also there is a problem. There has to be a balance. In this society, a small criticism of a politician, you slap a charge, sedition charge, or register some kind of a case. This is a democracy. If you are really believing in the freedom of speech and expression, you must allow this and take this criticisms in the right.
Sir, but I will make a distinction at the end as I conclude, and I appreciate you all joining us, that we have to make a distinction between hate speech and the right to offend.
Of course, I agree.
And we have to use hate speech law under section 153 very strongly. Yes, Mr. Sood, you wanted to say something in the end.
Yes.
20 seconds.
Rajdeep, there is a Lakshman Rekha between free speech and hate speech. Now, the police in our country does not understand the Lakshman Rekha. Secondly, it is too subjective to classify between free speech and hate speech. The line could be very thin. Moreover, the apex court judgments do not reach the police stations in the country. For example, Shreya Singhal. In Shreya Singhal, the Supreme Court went on to say that only speech that is instigative is hate speech. Otherwise, rebellious speech, revolutionary speech, ridiculing somebody, it is all part of free speech.
Okay.
Therefore, the police is not able to classify between free speech and hate speech. Now, in this scenario,
the police know their job very well. If you allow them to do their job, then you will not have any of these issues. There's a complete chaos. It is wrong to say that the police don't know the distinction between a free speech and hate
Therefore, the line is so subjective. The magistracy of the country must rise to the occasion.
Correct. The police officers know their law, and the police officers know how to use that if they are allowed to use the law properly.
Therefore,
Rajdeep, one by one, sir.
All I'm saying is we must have checks and balances in the system. For example, before arresting
one by one,
for a free speech
let Mr. Sood finish.
The
Before
checks and
arresting
balances
any
are there.
person for
Article
free speech
19, which
related
talks about the
offence,
freedom of speech
there
and
must be a
expression.
Okay, gentlemen, if you speak over each other, we won't listen to both. But clearly,
you have not the absolute freedom.
okay, if when we have a police officer and a lawyer giving two different perspectives, it shows there is a problem in definition at times as well. But it's clear, any speech that instigates violence deliberately, in a malified manner, and any speech designed to promote enmity between communities, provocatively spoken, deserves the law book thrown at them. But it must be done in all cases and not selectively. It's only then that you can take the moral high ground. Think about it. I promise you one thing here today. As long as I am on this show, I will not allow hate speech. I promise you, if any of my panelists engage in hate speech, I will stop them, their mics will be muted, they will be removed from the show. And I will not allow hate mongers to use this platform to spread hate among community. This is a promise I'm making. I've been 34 years in this profession, and I have seen what hate speech can do to people on the ground. And we've seen it in the last couple of weeks. So this is an assurance I'm giving you from this platform. Let's take a break. On the other side, our good news today story. It comes from Junagadh in Gujarat. Back in a moment. You're watching the news today. News without the noise.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com or call 9999892171. Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Everyone's busy finding what's trending. You're busy finding out why. India Today, for those who research before reacting. Download the India Today app now. Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices.
You are watching India Today.
Welcome back. Just about enough time tonight for good news today. There's always good news in this wonderful country called India. A tour of a unique library in Junagadh in Gujarat. Only this one doesn't have books, but yet it's a good news story. Take a look.
What do you do to beat stress after a long, rough day at work? If you are a government employee in Junagadh, this is where you might go. The Human Library. Here workers exchange thoughts freely face to face, leaving no hard feelings for the next day. The concept has been introduced by District Collector Dr. Rachit Raj.
Why are we not happy? तो मेरे दिमाग में यह है कि अगर हम खुश नहीं हैं तो we cannot deliver. तो basically हमारा ये idea है for delivery because we are working for the people, we are working in the democratic institution.
In the Human Library, employees share their experiences, stories, what they want to do, pretty much anything they want to speak about.
मैं जब से इनिशिएटिव स्टार्ट किया है सर ने 1 महीने से, तब से मैं स्टार्टिंग से यहाँ पे आ रहा हूँ और मुझे लगा है कि मेरे जो वर्किंग है, मेरा जो एफिशिएंसी है, मेरा जो इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस है, वो उसमें काफ़ी ज़्यादा इम्प्रूवमेंट हुआ है.
The human library works on the formula of gross domestic happiness. But does it guarantee happiness? The jury is out. Bureau Report, India Today.
All kinds of libraries in this world. Let me leave you with my image of the day, and it gives me great joy that my home state, one of my home states, Mumbai, home city, has broken a 92-year-old record for the highest margin of victory in first-class cricket. Entered the Ranji Trophy semis by beating Uttarakhand by 725 runs. Mumbai is the home of cricket, or it still is. The biggest ever win in the terms of runs in the history of cricket. My heart is in Mumbai and will always remain so. Thanks for watching. You stay well, stay safe. Good night. Shubhratri. Jai Hind. Namaskar. Say no to hate speech. Let's fight hate speech together. That's the message tonight. Bye for now.
NASA beamed doctors into the middle of the International Space Station while they were physically on Earth. This might seem like a scene from a sci-fi movie, but this technology now exists. NASA tried this new method to ensure medical help is provided to people in adverse situations. This is being called the first holoportation handshake from Earth in space. So what is holoportation and how does it work? According to NASA, it is a capture technology that allows high-quality 3D models of people to be reconstructed, compressed and transmitted live anywhere in real time. When these images are combined with mixed reality displays such as HoloLens, it allows users to see, hear and interact with remote participants in 3D. The technology gives a feeling as if the person is right in front of you. NASA says that the technology could be highly effective in deep space where communication lag is a major problem due to the immense distance between Earth and other objects. Using the Microsoft HoloLens Kinect camera with custom software, NASA flight surgeon Dr. Joseph Schmid and their teams were holoported. They interacted with astronaut Thomas Pesquet in a two-way conversation. Holoportation is not new. It has been in use since at least 2016 by Microsoft. But this was the first use in such an extreme and remote environment as space.
Sorry.